Interest rates, inflation, and the stock market are just some of the barometers of the economy. Other benchmarks that people pay attention to include consumer habits, such as coupon clipping or increasing or decreasing cash holdings. Joining me today at the NASDAQ MarketSite here in New York is Michele Romanow. Michele, great to have you here today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, you're an entrepreneur as well as VC and the youngest dragon on the show Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
And you've gone from caviar to coupon to capital.
Yeah.
So tell me about your journey as an investor as well as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's a great story. So I started right out of school. My very first business, believe it or not, was caviar fishery. Went on to start an e-commerce company, a coupon app that we sold to Groupon called Snap Saves, and then joined the cast of Dragon's Den. And I kept seeing the same thing happen. It's like a great team would come on the show. They were looking for, $100,000 for 25% of their company to grow, their e-commerce business. And they had really good unit economics. They were making a product for $10, selling it for $50, having $10 in ad spend every time. And I just kept thinking, some deals, equity is just not the best fit. These entrepreneurs are going to take all that money and go buy ads. That's what mostly is what happening. 40% of venture capital dollars are now going into companies to just buy Google and Facebook ads. And so ended up building Clearbanc with my co-founder around this idea that instead of giving entrepreneurs capital for equity, we would do it on a revenue share basis. And then everyone won. The entrepreneurs got to keep their company and their equity in their company, but they didn't have to take out these nasty personal guarantees that banks wanted. And so we say, look, we'll give you between $10,000 and $10 million to grow your revenue. You give us a fixed percentage of revenue, called that 5%, until you pay us back, and then that's it. And so we've, last year we gave entrepreneurs $150 million. This year we should give entrepreneurs over $1 billion. And it was all from my journey of seeing how hard it was. I had bootstrapped all of my initial companies and wanted to build a company on top of that.
Mm-hmm. And Michele, since you've been on both sides of the table as an entrepreneur as well as angel investor, VC, you understand business models.
Yeah.
And not just the investing side, but also how companies function, whether they're small or large. So when you're listening to people pitch their businesses, can you spot right away what makes a good business model and a bad business model?
I think that you want some repeatability and some scalability in every single business model. So whether that's, subscription or being able to grow every customer, you're looking for those elements of a business model. But ultimately what matters the most is the entrepreneur. And great entrepreneurs, I have worked on tons of bad business models and bad ideas that I had to figure out. But great entrepreneurs have this grit characteristic where they can be kind of knocked down and they are just willing to keep iterating until they get to a big innovation. And I ultimately think that that's what leads to great innovation. It's just a ton of iteration. And so on the show, it's so easy to just judge people based on business models. But I think looking deeper into the entrepreneur and seeing, if that person really has kind of that chip on their shoulder has been a much better indicator for me of the entrepreneurs that have done well.
And I think iteration is a very important keyword, especially when you take a look at your businesses. Now, I understand that you started with Buytopia and then you went on to Snap Saves. And when Groupon came knocking on your door to acquire that company, you didn't let them have the business at a discount. You negotiated and you made sure that you got the best deal as well. So what tips do you have for entrepreneurs out there when it comes to negotiating?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that especially with early stage and earlier deals, so before you're 10 years old as a company, it's really important to have as many options on the table as you can. So you want to have the option as an entrepreneur of, this is what our company's worth if we go raise money. This is my option if I want to take, Clearbanc capital and not give up equity. This is my option if we want to sell the company. And it's by playing those and it's by having multiple options that you can get the best possible deal. And so I think it's really hard to do. I have lots of sympathy for entrepreneurs because running multiple processes at once is not easy, but it is the thing that optimizes your price because you can genuinely say no. I remember, one of my great mentors was like, the no is the greatest aphrodisiac in negotiation. When you can say no, I don't want that deal, you can only really say that when you have something in your back pocket. Sure. And so, creating those options, I think, is really important as entrepreneurs grow and scale. Mm-hmm. And that's literally one of the reasons that Clearbanc is one of those options. And so, if you're not getting a deal from venture capitalists that you want, and you don't want to give up a part of your company or a part of board control, you have another option on the table. Mm-hmm.
And Michele, I want to take a step back and look at the different types of businesses you've started as well as invested in. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at the Caviar business, that's quite a stark contrast from what you're doing right now with Clearbanc. Totally. So how did you get into this Caviar business? And I understand it came at the time when the economy started tanking. So what did that teach you about investing in different economic climates?
Totally. So we started the business obviously before the economy tanked, and so we were literally in school. We had figured out that worldwide supply of caviar was down by 95% because we had just overfished the Caspian Sea. So we're crazy enough to move out to the east coast of Canada and literally build a fishery from scratch. Boats, fishermen, my hands knee deep in fish, the whole 9 yards. But very quickly after that, kind of 4 months in, we were in the fall of 2008. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing the bottoms, come out of the economy. And so although we had a ton of demand for our product when we first started producing it, we knew that was going to change. And, that's all entrepreneurs are subject to market forces. It's just about figuring out if there was a pivot. I was 21 years old. There wasn't much of a pivot there for me to continue to make it. But, less than a year later, we had gone out and started an e-commerce site where we were offering discounts on, great things to see and do in your city. And that was a perfect business model for a recession because, everyone still does want to go for dinner and wants to get their nails done and wants to take their kids to the zoo. It's just they don't really want to do those things at full price when we were in the middle of recession. And that's, I think, why, the Groupon business model blew up, why the couponing business model blew up, is it was the right business at the right time. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of time, let's take a look at where we are now. The stock market has recovered from the lows we saw at the end of last year, but there are plenty of geopolitical risks, and you live north of the U.S. border. Yeah. But at the same time, with Clearbanc, you have 90% of your customers based here in the U.S. So do you have any plans to expand, and how do geopolitics affect your business?
Yeah, so I think the nice part is that, these massive trends of e-commerce continuing to grow and small businesses continuing to grow is really what, Clearbanc is looking for. And we're looking at very data-driven decisions around what your unit economics are on your business. And all of that is kind of subject to some fluctuations in a recession. But yeah, we're certainly expanding this year. Now we are in the US and Canada. We're expanding into the UK and Europe this year as well because we've just seen that this is a great option for lots of other entrepreneurs. And especially in a recession sometimes, funding from venture capitalists often pull back. They get scared because we have no idea what's going to happen. But, we're very confident that if you have good unit economics, you can continue to grow. And so I think that's what we've kind of looked at as kind of we go into a period of uncertain times here. Mm-hmm.
And I do want to talk about Sprott Media. So the parent company is also based in your neck of the woods in Toronto, Sprott Inc. Yeah. And they focus on Safehaven alternative assets. Yeah. So do you have any Safehaven investments of your own, and how do you sock away for a rainy day?
Yeah, I certainly have kind of, the standard set of gold and cash and equities. I think that one of the nice things that we're doing at Clearbanc is building a different asset class, the same way that Sprott has seen. There's lots of different asset classes that need to be had. I mean, traditionally it was, looking at small business loans that all had personal guarantees, and it was looking at venture capital. There wasn't a new asset class for entrepreneurs that wasn't backed by personal guarantees, but had really strong returns and didn't take equity. And so that's, we're giving entrepreneurs that choice. It's like, we give you $100,000, you owe us $106,000 and not a cent more. So you always know what your cost of capital. And I think while doing that, we will build another asset class around that.
And Michelle, last but not least, before
Yeah.
I let you go, let's talk about Dragon's Den. Now, many Canadians or people who live in Commonwealth countries might be more familiar with Dragon's Den, but
Yeah.
here in the US, it's seen as the equivalent of Shark Tank.
Exactly.
And you
Same
have,
format.
yeah, and you have your fellow Canadians, Robert Herjavec, as well as Kevin O'Leary,
Yep.
coming down south to be on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
What is it really like being a dragon on the show, and what's the most exciting thing about being an angel investor?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the most surprise, well, this shouldn't surprise you, but I get pitched a lot. I get pitched in bathrooms, at restaurants, on the show. So I think that's one of the funny things. I think I've heard a pitch in every possible setting there is to have. But, you know, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I think one of the best ways to solve problems is to build a business around that. And so to get to hear my time seeing and learning how to do, you know, learning how to support entrepreneurs and their businesses is perfect for me. I can't imagine doing anything else. And that was the reason I built Clearbanc. It's the reason I've been such an active angel investor on the show. And so it's just been a great fit for me.
Okay, Michelle, well, thank you so much for joining me, and best of luck to you going forward.
Thank you.